This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Oh, well, we won the Natty. Next on Michigan Podcast.
But there's going to be one team that's going to play solely as a team. No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team.
Looks deep for Anthony Clark. Waits for it. Hit. Caught.
They said you can't be Ohio State. Now what?
Brady gets terrific. Throws it, and a touchdown, Knight again. Schultz just before Brazil got him, and a leaping interception by Woodson.
Harbaugh back to throw over the middle. Caught by Collier at the 5 on his feet. Touchdown, Michigan. On its way. It's good.
He's 5'7", 179 pounds, a junior at Michigan. But Jamie Morris packs a wallop, and he delivers for Bo Schembechler.
And here's your first play. Pressure coming. Sacked. It is Glenn Steele, number 81, who fought his way through the traffic.
Option. And Robinson calls his own number, and he's going to score. Oh, an easy touchdown for Robinson and Michigan.
We're going to win the championship again because we're going to play as a team. And when we play as a team and the old season is over, you and I know it's going to be Michigan again. Michigan.
Go Blue. Greetings. I'm Steve Dace. Welcome to this week's episode of Michigan Podcast. I am on the road for work, the one that pays my bills anyway this week. But obviously we had to be here. I couldn't punk out. I had to show up after what was a total punking by Texas. It is what I expected, albeit worse. But I thought all along Texas was going to win this game by a couple of scores. I just didn't think, based on what we saw in the opening game, Michigan was ready for a game like this at all. So let's talk about where things are with the program and with this team moving forward, shall we? Let's talk about that, because I think the season needs to be a total reboot. Let's start there. I mean, I would treat this game against Arkansas State as a complete reboot. I think Arkansas State is a scrub. Take advantage of that. I think leadership and chemistry with this team is going to be tested. This is the worst loss most of these guys have ever had. Many of them were not here for 2020. Many of them did not play really against Georgia in that playoff game, and all they've really known is most Saturdays naming the score against opponents. And I think you saw some of that, some of the sideline reactions and stuff. These are players that, to their credit, are not used to losing and didn't necessarily handle it well. How they respond this week in the meetings and things we will not see will determine quite a lot of what we do see on Saturday. Next, to me, Davis Warren is Deacon Hill, the guy that Iowa had last year. Not even a Jag. I don't believe he can play at this level. I think he should start over with Alex Orji at quarterback. Now, maybe he can't play at this level either, but at least with his legs, he can stress a defense. Davis Warren doesn't challenge anything. So I don't even think he's just a guy. I think like Deacon Hill was for Iowa last year, he is a net negative. I think now it's all about the Big Ten season. If you beat USC in 2 weeks, I don't think anyone will care about this one. Everyone will move on. But you got to flush it, and I mean really flush it. You do not come back with this same garbage next week and give us fool's gold against a scrub that you can overpower. We all know that whatever you spent your camp building and rolled out here the first 2 weeks of the season, don't ask us to deny our lying eyes here. We all know that ain't it. That brings us to the defense. I mean, Wink just got completely outcoached here. We still might have, he was outcoached so badly, Wink Martindale was, that we still might have lost this game like 38-34 if we still had JJ at quarterback. So I think he needs some accountability this week as well. 6, let's not forget that it's one loss. This ends the longest regular season win streak in all of Big Ten history. That takes us back a long way. And all good things eventually do have to come to an end, Jean-Luc. But this also means the post-Jimmy era is now officially on. And tough times ahead here for a young coach like Sharon Moore. But that's why Sharon gets paid the big bucks. He's got to figure it out. There's some other things I'm concerned about I want to address. Michigan quarterback Davis Warren said after the game, quote, "We knew it was going to be a close game. We let them off too easy, and it's a really crappy feeling." Let me stop right there. We didn't let them off anything. Nobody let anybody off anything. We got completely dismantled. This is important because you need some self-awareness here. If this is not treated as a humbling experience by this team, then last Saturday was for naught, and there will be more Saturdays like this in the not-too-distant future. We got completely dismantled from the jump. We never had any leverage in this game whatsoever, not once. We were humbled. We need to completely reboot. We don't belong on the same field with that team. And this kind of talk again, well, we let them off. No, they took it from us. That's fool's gold. Unless you're Will Johnson, who even coming off his worst game, Texas still didn't dare challenge, or the kicker, Dominic Zavada, there isn't a single other Wolverine on this roster who should be happy with their play after the first 2 weeks. Nobody. This was a total unraveling of an opponent, that opponent being us in this case, like we did to teams last year. They did that to us. Next. All the talk of culture and everything else completely was unraveled by reality. Our offensive and defensive coordinators were reduced to primordial ooze, just totally outclassed by Texas. And we've got a first-time head coach who needs to figure a lot out against a schedule now even tougher than it already was. In this new era of college football, keep this in mind. 8-4 is basically 3-9 for a program like Michigan now. Every season now is playoff or bust. No one's going to care anymore, if they ever really did, about Citrus and Music City Bowls. If you're out of the playoff race in October, November, you're coaching for next year. Veteran players, especially ones, a team like ours that has so many pro prospects on it, vets will check out and get ready for real life. So every year is playoff or bust. That means we need to get better, and a lot better, and very quickly. Otherwise, we are coaching for next year a lot sooner than I think many of you realize. Nevertheless, always remember, as I said at the top of the show, we won the Natty. We'll come back. We'll get Mark Rogers' reaction to all of this here next. Well, we are on location, as we said here at the top of the show, so pardon the lack of aesthetics, but it's actually a pretty good metaphor for the lack of everything. Michigan football showed us on Saturday. Oh, well, we won the Natty. Let's bring in our good friend, Bucknut, Mark Rogers, who loves it now, but frankly, if his team doesn't win the national championship, this entire excursion called 2024 will be a meaningless pursuit of nihilistic, epic proportions. Good to see you, Mark. How are you, brother?
National championship or bust. That's how some programs live. Very few, but not necessarily yours, but that's where we sit.
Indeed. And we don't have to because we just won it. So we're good. But it was not good what we saw on Saturday. I had a lot to say here at the top, Mark, so no need to go through and reiterate all of that. I'm just going to open it up. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm going to go to the obvious position first and foremost. Okay, Davis Warren is just a guy, and if Michigan football gets back to where it needs to be along the offensive front, the defense, and some kind of playmaking ability on the outside, I know that Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson were not future Pro Football Hall of Famers, but could make plays downfield, then being just a guy at Michigan is more than adequate. We've seen that in the past. All right. So we'll see about Davis Warren in the second half. You know, Sharon Moore made the point, and it was obvious to see that he played and got into some kind of rhythm and really made some pretty impressive throws when the game was well out of hand. So we'll see if he was
against soft coverage and after Texas didn't care. Yeah,
He did.
That's the kind of stuff losers say after we beat the poop out of them for 3 hours like we used to. That's what they used to say after our games too. Yeah, but go ahead.
Okay.
That and you stole our signs. That was apparently everybody's excuse.
I'm trying to come up with a potential positive there. So he's the guy.
The kicker's good. The kicker's really good. Kicker's
really good. And, the fight song is still arguably the best in college football.
And we won the Natty. And we did.
We won the Natty. And absolutely. Started winning Natties in 1901. Yes. So, okay, back to the quarterback position. So, again, I don't know why there wasn't an effort made in the transfer portal based on what we're now seeing. Okay. That's over. Even though it was the deepest transfer portal quarterback class that we've seen, we could say the same thing to Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Why did you not go get a quarterback? Cade Klubnik, Clemson, Dabo Swinney, we could say the same thing to him, but he doesn't do that. All right, but Sharon Moore said it at his news conference. The only thing he could say, we were comfortable with our quarterback situation. Okay, what was driving me crazy, this happened on 2 occasions, if not 3 occasions. It's 3rd and 3, it's 3rd and 5. Alex Orji's in, and they're running out of the Wildcat or whatever they call it, their version of the Wildcat. And, of course, what does he do? He runs it up the middle and gets stuffed. You would have thought that, okay, this is a guy who was the front runner for the quarterback position, we thought, for the majority of the offseason. Even at the point in which, so he's throwing the ball in practice against an elite defense every day. And if not, at least you could make the excuse and make this approach that at the point in which they knew that he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback, but they knew that they wanted him to get into the game, the defenses would know this guy's never basically thrown a pass. He does not throw so school him on maybe 3 throws. They had the entire spring and summer to maybe make 3 pass plays out of that formation and give it to Alex Orji to I would have just grinded those throws and those reps into his skull over and over and over. These are the only 3 plays we're ever going to call pass plays out of this formation, but we want to be able to burn a defense. And now we're facing the best team, at least early in our schedule, and we need to be able to show them something different and throw the ball out of this formation because they haven't seen it, so they're preparing for the run. And that just dumbfounds me first and foremost. Next, we'll get to the comment that Sharon Moore, I just got done watching his news conference, and I love when coaches do this. They are asked why questions, meaning you need to give us the reason why, and they give you the results. That's not what he was asked. About the offense. Why is the offense not explosive? Are there going to be explosive plays in this offense? And his comment was, well, when you go 3 for 12 on 3rd down, you can't be explosive. No, the reason you went 3 for 12 on 3rd down is that you're not explosive. That doesn't give us a reason to why you're not explosive. Is it the scheme? Is it the detail? Is it the lack of athleticism? What is it that causes you not to be explosive? And my final takeaway or major takeaway from this game would be on the defensive side, where I think, Steve, you and I both agreed, as I would think others did, that this defense versus that Texas offense was just going to be something to behold. And then most likely, based on what we saw in week 1, the Michigan offense was going to wear down, and then the defense, or the Michigan defense, would eventually wear down because of the 3 and outs constantly on offense. This defense started to get torn up from possession number 1. Now, if we want to take the negative approach, it would be, look at this. This defense is not nearly as good as we expected it to be. Sharon Moore made a comment about communication breakdowns. So maybe guys like Michael Barrett and Junior Colson are missed more than we thought, or Rod Moore, who, of course, would be one of the key contributors athletically, but from a leadership standpoint on the defense, maybe missed more than what we anticipated. Or if you want to look at the cup half full, it would be, well, the Michigan defense came out and played much better in the second half when Texas had that 3-score lead and only gave up a touchdown in the second half. More to be seen there. This USC game now becomes just fascinating. What was considered by many, including myself, to be like a 75% to 80% win probability, has dipped considerably since then.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of time to discuss that because I think there's a lot that's going to come out of the Arkansas State game this weekend, frankly. And whether or not, I mean, Michigan will win this based on talent alone, but is it a fool's gold win? Meaning we did stuff that we can't replicate against teams that can stand up to us. And so everybody's going to get all excited until another reality check happens in 2 weeks. Or did they come up with something they can build upon that you could see that being successful the week after and moving forward? But we'll know more about that coming up this week. There's just a lot we don't know. It's a new coaching staff. We don't know how they'll respond, what they'll do in this situation. We have no clue. What really shocked me on the defensive side, Mark, and I don't think I had time to get into this a lot in the intro, so since you brought it up, I'll address it here. Wing comes out of the NFL, and the cardinal rule of a defensive coordinator in the NFL is you have to take something away. Right? These guys are all too good. The coaches are all too good. The schemes are all too good. On any given Sunday, Gardner Minshew can throw for 400 yards on you. Okay, that's what the NFL is. The average career lifespan is about 4 years. Coaches, the average coach lasts 3 years. So everything from short windows to throw into to windows of opportunity career-wise, everything in the NFL stands for not for long. And so if you stick around for as long as Wink has in the NFL, and he's had some great defenses, you have to take something away. Everybody was concerned about the Don Brown stuff, which is an oversimplification just because both guys like to blitz. They're not similar approaches at all. But frankly, Don Brown would have been a massive upgrade on Saturday, and I'll explain why, in my opinion. Don Brown would have at least taken something away. Don Brown would have gone, we're coming, and if you can, if you look at Quinn Ewers' career stats, by the way, not a good downfield thrower. He has struggled as a downfield thrower his entire collegiate career. We never made him throw a ball more than 20 or 25 air yards like the entire game. And what I would have done, at least Don Brown would have said, you know what, we're going to play you man. You've got all these new receivers. Yeah, they're good receivers. They got great resumes, but it's the first time you guys have ever played someone who can hit you back together. So we're going to man you up. And if you can hit 3 or 4 of those arm punts down the field into those tight man-to-man windows, congrats. Take your win. Have fun back in Austin. But we're going to make you prove it. Don Brown would have at least done that. From the very beginning, you've heard the expression, when a lineman gets on skates, he's just, being moved by the defensive front. From the very beginning, Steve Sarkisian had Wink Martindale on a string. From the very beginning. Okay? Wink Martindale took nothing away. And so from the beginning, Texas could just do whatever it wanted to do whenever it wanted to do it. And that was something I don't know that anyone would have predicted or anticipated. I mean, as Steve Sarkisian, absolutely, what if you do that if you do to Wink Martindale in prison, what Steve Sarkisian did to him on the field last week, I mean, that's called a date in prison, Mark. I mean, he just buttercupped him. You're my bitch. That's what he did.
Well, I'm going to extend your point just a little bit more, Steve, since you went this direction, although I will not come up with quite the analogies that you will. But when it comes to taking something away on defense, who's run on Michigan during this dynasty? Nobody's run on Michigan. I would have come out and said, you know what, we're going to take away in general. It's got to be more detailed than this, but take away the pass. And let's see if you can
Jesse Minter approach. Yeah, that's the other approach they could have done. Yeah.
You've lost 2 of your running backs. You lost your best running back, C.J. Baxter. You still have a good one in Jaden Blue, but he's not a great running back. You do have a tremendous offensive line, but our strength is our front 4. We're going to take away the pass, see if you can run on us, and even if you can run on us to a certain extent, we're going to grind you into the type game we want to play. And you're going to be taking 6 and 8 minute drives. And hopefully we can counter. Of course, Michigan didn't. They couldn't do anything on offense. But that beside the point, at least they would have brought them into the kind of phone booth kind of fight that they wanted to.
I agree with that. That's the Mike McDonald, Jesse Minter approach. That's what we've done to, frankly, Ryan Day the last 2 years. You just dare. Even if you can run on us, we don't believe you'll want to. We don't believe that you'll allow, Chip Trevanium to get 200 yards rushing on us because you'll just have to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. You won't stick to it. You won't. And you're right, but that's also taking something away. You don't have to do it the Don Brown way. You're right. You could have done it the Jesse Minter, Mike McDonald way, which is prove to us you're willing to do this the long way. Prove to us you're willing to super tramp and take the long way home because now we're playing the game at our tempo. They didn't do that either. I have no idea what the defensive game plan was on Saturday. None. Other than, unless it said at the top of Wink Martindale's play chart, get owned. Unless it said get owned, I seriously don't know what the game plan was.
Well, of course, we know Sark's a mad scientist, too. And those guys, they want to show you how smart they are. And he is. He's an offensive genius, but they want to show it. So even if you gift them off tackle, he's only going to take that for so long. And then he's just gonna get to him that he wants to dial something else because he's been working on it all week and all off season. So I just think that those offensive geniuses, it is difficult for them to take. Hey, we're going to run it 80% of the time.
All right, let's close this out. I'm not going to ask you a lot of what you think they should do or will do because it's a new staff and everything else, and we don't know. And a lot of the guys who were here in 2020 are gone. So you're dealing with a junior-led team, Mason Graham, Colston Loveland, all these guys. All they've known is winning and naming the score most Saturdays. They have not taken a punch in the face like this, and many of them didn't play key roles in the Georgia game in the playoff a few years ago either. So I don't think we have any idea at all. Like nobody thought a lot of people were picking Appalachian State last week, and Clemson comes back after that Florida State or that Georgia embarrassment and put 66 on them. No one predicted that. Okay, I really don't have a clue how Michigan will respond to this on Saturday. I don't, and so I think speculating how they will or what they should do, I think is vain. So let's talk about what you expect what would be hopeful for you to see, because I really don't believe it's about margin of victory. Although I'm taking Arkansas State plus the 22. But I really don't think it's about margin of victory for me, Mark. I really think it was a style of and an identity of football that could be built upon moving forward this season. Was that established in this game? Because to me, this is like the new season opener now. We're rebooting the season here this week. So was something that, okay, we can build an identity on that. That's something that we can build off of as the season moves forward. Was that established in this game? If the answer is no, I don't care if we won 38-0 because Samaj Morgan returned a punt. We had 2 strip sacks for short fields. That's not helping us against USC the next week. I mean, there is no identity to this team on any level whatsoever. And I think that's the number one thing that has to be established on Saturday.
I'll go 3 different directions on offense. One would be at the quarterback position. A conversation that you and I had a number of times during the offseason was, and the statement I made to you at 1 or 2 points that you seemed to go along with, was that the quarterback battle was more about how do we want to play football this year, and as long as what we saw in the spring game was valid, because there was no separation or little separation, that it was more about what style of game do we want to play. And they've chosen Davis Warren, so they're going to be a traditional Michigan play action type team. And so can the receivers, it was pretty evident when coaches say something during news conferences and because they're going to give you the vanilla answers, but if they give you something, it's usually much more meaningful than you would think. So Sharon Moore obviously not pleased with the separation of the Michigan receivers downfield. He believes it's something that can be worked on, needs to be coached up, so they obviously need to do a better job. So it's not all on the quarterback position, but the identity of the team. How much is this Alex Orji changeup going to play going down the road? Are they just going to continue with what they've got from play callings or a quarterback rep ratio? Are they going to stay in that same category and continue with Davis Warren? I guess Jack Tuttle's going to be healthy enough to play this week as well. All right. The other one would be Donovan Edwards. You brought it up a few weeks ago. I think you brought it up after the Fresno State game. And what was alarming there, you just made the comment about being able to name the score against everybody in the group of 5, anybody in the Big Ten that wasn't up above a mid-tier team in the Big Ten. Yeah, they have named the score for 3 years. And so that was what was different about the Fresno State game, that they didn't go out there and it wasn't 52-7. So at the running back position, I was watching college football, as I always do, all over the place, and I was just comparing what I saw with Khalil Mullings across the board with other backs and thought, he's a nice back, but they're going from Blake Horn being the workhorse to thinking that they could make Donovan Edwards that. Khalil Mullings will be that, it appears, but he's really nothing special. He's a good back, but so they have to give up on the Donovan Edwards RB1 try, I guess. And as you suggested after the Fresno State game, did we see Donovan Edwards become a guy that comes into the game and they have special plays for him and he becomes that type of player? We'll need to see that component, or should, because I do agree with your assessment there. We're on the same page. So those are a few things that I think Michigan should take a step forward this week.
I mean, just some throwbacks. To me, at this point, I think you turn Donovan Edwards into a David Palmer, Jacquez Green, Tim Dwight, kind of an over-encompassing offensive weapon where it's 8 to 10 carries. But, I mean, you're Michigan. Your motto is smash. You're playing a top 5 team at home, and your top 2 tailbacks have a combined 14 carries. Somewhere in the afterlife, Bo is cursing you. I mean, you're coaching at Michigan. You're the team that gave up on the run game. You did it. You're Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards combined for 14 carries. I mean, that just a lot of what to go around. But oh well, we won the Natty.
And you won the Natty, and you gave up on that running game with that quarterback.
I know it makes no sense. We're doing straight dropbacks with ragamuffin receivers running shallow routes that everybody's just squatting on. You're right. He's more of a traditional Michigan play action quarterback. We don't run any play action. That's why I'm saying it's not about the result on Saturday. There's a lot of things that Michigan could just do to overpower Arkansas State and create a score that looks the way Michigan and Arkansas State is supposed to look. That won't tell us anything. All right. The schedule moving forward is way tougher, as I talked about before you came on. Illinois looks tougher, for example. Okay. Indiana, who cares about, the team they played? Indiana's also been playing college football for 120 years. That's the most points and yards they've ever had in a game. All right. The schedule is already tough. It looks tougher. And so it's really about, did you establish something that you can grow and build on for the rest of the season? Or did you just rich rod against Delaware State? Okay. That doesn't tell me anything, so. That's why I think this game is fascinating, much more for what we actually see with our eyes than what we read in the box score after the fact. Thank you, Mark. Good to see you as always.
Appreciate it, Steve.
You bet. All right, this week's X-Poll results, we asked you, would you start Davis Warren at quarterback next week? This is now our most responded to poll ever. 2/3 of you said no, I wouldn't either. 1/3 of you said yes. I would say this, though, about Alex Orji. Either you start him or don't play him. The gadget gimmick stuff, get that crap out of here and take that back to SKRA football and Jackson Park, junior high 8th grade. Get that out of here. All right, that's weak sauce. So to me, either start him or then you go full in all the way, consummate the relationship with Davis Warren and give him every rep. Stop the gadget gimmick stuff. It's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourselves. That brings us to our feedback of the week. Tyler Williams writes, I know they talked about Jaden Davis wanting to redshirt, but would it hurt to give him a shot? I believe he can play 4 games without burning his redshirt. Why not try it? Well, I actually would not play him right now because you don't want the old commercial when we were kids, serve no wine before it's time. This season is on the brink already. And you don't want to saddle Jaden Davis with that. That's too much to put on that young man. Okay, so to me, I think that you go to Jaden Davis after you've had, if this happens, and I think it's very likely it will, after you've had your 3rd loss, because that would be your 2nd loss in the league, you're out of everything. And your veteran players, especially the guys that turned down huge NIL money from Southern schools to stay here, they're checking out. I don't care who you think you are. No guys going balls deep for a swing pass against Northwestern when you're 5-4. No one's doing that. That's just not the sport we play in anymore. You can hate it, not like it. It's irrelevant because that's what the sport now is. So it's playoff or bust. And if you're out of the playoff race, you might as well just bench your veteran players because they're peeking ahead. They all got senioritis and you're coaching for next year. That's the juncture, if we get there, that I would put Jaden Davis in and try to give him his lumps now so that presuming that Michigan will be very aggressive in the transfer portal here this year, you don't potentially destabilize another season by having a more veteran team in some spots held back because of the youth of the quarterback. But to me, I think you go with Jaden Davis if and when the goals you had all off season long are off the table, and you just try to fresh start because you're coaching for next year anyway. So you might as well just get a kickstart, a jump start on the 2025 season next year, or when that happens anyway, because you are coaching for next year. There's about 15 or 20 schools, and Michigan's one of them, that from now on, every year is playoff or bust. Just like there's about 30 or 40 schools in college basketball that every year it's NCAA tournament or bust, right? And you have to consider every bowl game is now the NIT. No one cares. Unless it's the playoff, nobody cares. And no upperclassman that is worth anything is playing in the game. They're all sitting it out. That's just the reality. So you're coaching for this year until this year ends. And this year ends either, with the final game or when you lose your third time, whichever comes first. And if the losing the third game comes first, that's when you immediately turn to next year. And that's when I'd consider Jaden Davis then. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Michigan Podcast. Don't forget, we won the Natty. You can let us know what you think about what we think by following us on Twitter at Michigan Podcast in between episodes. Don't forget to like, rate, share, subscribe, 5-star review. Help us to find more Michigan fans just like you. We appreciate all of you when you do that for us. Thank you very much. Until next week, I'm Steve Day saying go blue, and don't forget, we won the Natty.